So a lot of my work really comes from my background as an architect, and most of my work is fairly structured. Certainly in these you can see that the edges aren't super hard, but they are very structured. And most of my work has been structured. I also have a part of my work that is very loose, which is not really represented in this show, but it's been represented in some other shows. I work very intuitively. I work intuitively in colors. I work intuitively in how I structure my work. One of the things I found about these is they're either 4 or 5 or 6 panels. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which I didn't realize until after I looked at them. The colors are also intuitive. These were based on the time that I spent in the south of France near the Mediterranean Ocean. And so they start with some of the blues, some of the whites, and then I riff on those colors. Some of the colors are based directly on colors that I saw when I was there. Other colors I choose because they fit with the painting. So it's really an abstracted view of a landscape. And if you think of a landscape as these bands, you know, you have the sky, you have clouds, you may have buildings, you may have the ocean, the side, you know, street, whatever, but there are these bands of stacked. And so it's a slice through these bands of stacked colors. And then I riff on the actual colors. Some of them are inspired by a place. Some of them work because they fit with the other colors. But for example, with this one, I realized that I wasn't using much green. So I went back and put a lot of green in because, you know, there's forests and stuff. And if you look at a picture of any scene in the Côte d'Azur, it's very green and very, very blue. Whereas these are really light. And one of the things I do is I feel like I abstract this, but I'm also trying to evoke. So if you say, what's it about? I'd like you to say, oh, well, this evokes a picture of this evokes a feeling of the Côte d'Azur because it has the green, it has the blue, it has a lot of white. One of the things I got into was staining canvas. And so this is unprimed canvas, and I put very thin acrylic paint on it. And it actually stains the canvas, so you can see the canvas and you can see the weave of the canvas. Now, in addition to the stained canvases, some of them, you can tell the difference here because there's a lot of heavy paint on these. So this is not stained. But the stained canvas gives me a lot of ability to shift the colors because I can put layers of different whites on here. And I can shift it whiter, I can shift it darker, I can make this redder, I can make it pinker without actually doing much except putting a very light white stain over it. So I really love what stained canvas can do. I either staple canvas to the wall or I have it flat on a table so I can push against it. And when I'm using this, I'm using a trowel and I actually press against it and pull paint down. And then I take the canvas and I mount it onto a cradle board. If I use this heavy duty, I can push paint and make these little ridges, which gives a little texture, or you can see there's a little texture here. I like to see the texture in some of them. When I work on multiple pieces at the same time. I may have 10 of them going, and I may just do the white on this one, and then I might go over to another one that has a white in it, or I might work the red or the blue, or I might have, you can see this is a couple of different blues here. There's some purpley blues and bluer blues, and so I might have several different blues that I'm working with. I actually mix them in takeout containers, and I put a little paint in there with a lot of water, or depending on how much pigment I want to go into my canvas, I'll put more water, have less pigment, or less water and have more pigment. So more pigment actually stains more, but less pigment gives me the ability to build up a color. So I can build this up from a blue or a purple. I can make it darker by using more pigment, or I can make it lighter by using less pigment. I can also make it lighter by using a very light white on the wash, white wash on it. This is much lighter than what I've done in the past, and actually my palette has started to go lighter. I can't tell you why, but I've done a lot of blacks, I've done a lot of deep blues. I actually did a big one for my brother, which is these very bold colors. All my colors are fairly intuitive, and I don't really think about this as a particular color here, because this might have 8 or 10 layers of color on it to make this red. And so the red is made on the canvas. It's not made in my mixing. I could not replicate this piece. I would never be able to replicate this piece. And I would never want to replicate this piece. I have a friend who does these pieces, and he makes a little piece of paper with every color, and he labels it and numbers it. So he can go back and he knows and he says how much blue, how much red, how much yellow, whatever in it. Not interested in that.